The massive cargo ship had been stranded at sea for over 48 hours, its engine completely dead, floating like a lifeless whale in the middle of the Pacific. Inside the engine room, a team of the world's top engineers stood drenched in sweat, brows furrowed, frustration thick in the air. Despite all their degrees, diagnostics, and tools, they couldn't find the root of the problem. With millions of dollars in goods on board, every minute of delay was a ticking bind time for the shipping company's reputation and finances. But in the midst of all this chaos, someone entirely unexpected stepped forward. A 40-year-old janitor named Miguel, holding nothing but a wrench and a quiet confidence in his eyes. Miguel had worked on the ship for over a decade, quietly sweeping floors, mopping oil spills, and scrubbing away the grime of other men's work. Most of the crew barely noticed him. To them, he was just the guy who cleaned up after the real workers. No one ever asked his opinion, and he never offered it. But what they didn't know was that before he was a janitor, Miguel had once studied mechanical engineering in college. Life had thrown him a cruel twist. His father died, his mother fell ill, and he had to drop out to provide for his family. Since then, he carried his knowledge silently, watching, learning, but never speaking, until now. As the engineers debated over complex systems and pointed fingers, Miguel watched from the corner, unseen. He noticed something, a faint, irregular vibration in the hull. To most, it was insignificant, but Miguel recognized the pattern. It reminded him of a case study he had once read in a worn-out engineering journal during a night shift. Slowly, he stepped forward, clearing his throat. "I think I know what's wrong," he said softly. The lead engineer, an arrogant man named Collins, raised an eyebrow. "Let's leave the technical stuff to the professionals, all right?" he scoffed. The others chuckled. But Miguel didn't back down. "Please, just give me 10 minutes. If I'm wrong, I'll never speak again." The room went quiet. The captain, a tired man caught between failure and desperation, looked at Miguel with the mix of curiosity and defeat. "Go ahead," he said finally. Miguel picked up a small flashlight and headed into the narrowest part of the engine room. He tapped along the pipes, listened closely, traced the lines of pressure valves, and finally reached a hidden corner most of the engineers hadn't even considered. There, lodged deep in a pressure conduit, was a tiny fragment of metal, just big enough to disrupt the fuel flow. He carefully removed it and reconfigured the bypass. Then he turned around. "Try it now," he said calmly. Collins rolled his eyes, but signaled for a restart. A moment later, the engine roared back to life, stronger than it had in days. The lights flickered, then steadied. The ship groaned with relief, and a quiet gasp spread through the control room. Miguel stepped back into the shadows as the others stood frozen in disbelief. The same men who had mocked him moments ago now stared at him like he had just pulled off a miracle. Word spread quickly through the ship. Crew members who had never even noticed Miguel before came to shake his hand. The captain called him to the bridge and thanked him personally. Even Collins, with his pride shattered, offered a weak but sincere apology. For the first time in years, Miguel wasn't invisible. He was seen, respected, and valued, not for a title, not for a uniform, but for the knowledge and heart he had always carried within him. Later that night, Miguel stood alone on the deck, the stars above reflecting on the calm sea. A junior engineer approached him quietly. "How did you know what to look for?" he asked. Miguel smiled faintly. "Sometimes it's not about knowing more. It's about listening, observing, and remembering what others forget." The incident made headlines in the shipping industry. A janitor saving $1 million vessel where trained engineers had failed? It was unheard of. But more than that, it was a wake-up call. Companies started to look deeper, recognizing the quiet talents they had long overlooked. And Miguel, he was offered a full scholarship to finish his degree, a promotion, and the respect he had always deserved. The story became more than a technical triumph. It was a lesson in humility, value, and the power of never giving up on yourself. Miguel didn't fix the engine to prove anyone wrong. He did it because he knew he could help, because he believed that knowledge has no rank and skill wears no badge. And from that day on, no one ever saw Miguel as just a janitor again. Never underestimate someone because of their title or position. True value lies in experience, humility, and the courage to step forward when others can't.